First of all,
Yes.
thank you so much for giving this opportunity. And I'm seeing so many similar faces like Shiv Prasad ji. We have studied together, and it is a wonderful evening seeing your friend and your batchmate after such a long time. And was listening to the couple of presentations, and it is going so well. So I must congratulate the organizing team and Dr. Pramod Jaiswal in particular. Without wasting further time, I would, because I think Doctor has to leave, so I'll not take much time and I'll invite him for the discussion. And I'll just take a moment to tell the title of his paper. Dr. Junuguru Srinivas is an assistant professor from the GITAM University, and his title of the talk today is going to be on India and China approach on transatlantic order, a comparative study. After he finishes his talk, I'll be talking about my paper, and I'll also be introducing the panel in a bit detail. But before everything else, I give the floor to Dr. Srinivas. Dr. Srinivas, over to you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much for the brief introduction. Yeah. At the outset, let me extend my deep sense of gratitude for giving me this opportunity by the NICE organization. Thank you so much, particularly to Pramod sir for accepting my proposal. Today, I'm going to present on India and China approach on transatlantic order, a comparative study. Okay, and the framework of my presentation is introduction, background, India and China approach on transatlantic world order, conclusion. We are living in a very complicated global affairs today. World politics are rapidly changing. Western supremacy in international relations is depleting. The dominant world economic system and liberal global order being transformed. Countries like China, India, Brazil, and several other countries. Remarkably, one of the largest global economies, and China's footprints in the global economy made fathom China's role in emerging international order. Likewise, China's neighbor India's economic growth rate and its strength causing alarming bells for the global north to maneuver its foreign policy in emerging international politics. So two Asian giants are working on the same projects to become global powers. However, the question that arises is how these two countries are viewing the rapidly changing international politics. What exactly do China and India want to do in present international relations? Whether these two countries want to be part of the existing global governance structure down in the transatlantic order, or these two countries cooperate or follow an antagonistic attitude with the global north? If so, then how would this conflict affect international politics? If not, then can India and China grow together? If so, then on what condition? These are the very critical questions to be answered by the time. There is much discourse on the India-China bilateral clashes. However, there is a shortage of literature on India-China views on global, not supremacist international relations. Therefore, explore China and India's perspective on transatlantic order. So the background, it has been more than that Atlantic architecture from the post-war period of global politics to till recent past, the global politics have been dominated by the UN, IMA, World Bank, and several other global organizations. The West these global organizations to promote peace, stability, economic prosperity, and tranquility in international relations, so that it is more of a Western global order prevail international relations. However, the success of this global order has created its existence. We know that India and China indeed have a checkered history. However, it is openly evident that the China-India relations are elements of cooperation, competition, and potentially conflict. As we see in October 2019, when Chinese leader Xi Jinping and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi stressed the cooperative aspects in the relationship, both the countries have been affirming in regular intervals. But we had witnessed the Okulam issue and the Galwan Valley problems in quick succession. That shows how are India and China relations. But when it comes to global order, both India and China want to reform the existing international order. However, their perspective seems to be far different concerning the current global order. So India and China approach on transatlantic world order. Both India and China indeed want to make the existing global order more democratic and inclusive. India and China see terms of global governance and global trade. They want to prioritize global south while running the global institutions. Further, India and China are demanding for a multiple world order in international relations. However, to materialize that, India and China have been adopting a different path. In the process, India and China partnering in a slew of regional organizations to reform the existing global order. For example, both India and China are active members of the BRICS group and regularly emphasizing improving the current institutional architecture of international relations. China's attitude reflects more challenging global order rules and transatlantic engagement in international relations ties. At the same time, India is adopting more benevolent methods for bringing reforms to the international order. However, that does not mean that India is not active and vocal in reforming global demand. Instead, it is trying to use active diplomatic methods. So in the conclusion, both India and China indeed have scores of differences on various bilateral and multilateral aspects of international relations. For China, India is one of the annoying partners in its neighborhood. Scholar Kadira Pityagoda termed India as a conditional threat to China, as India's foreign policy tilting towards the US is always an aggravating factor for China's foreign policy makers. China believes that India will cooperate with the US in containing China's role in international relations. At the same time, India considered China a threat to its national security and India's role in international relations. China never supported India's membership in the US UNSC, and China was not okay with India joining in the nuclear supplies group. Further, China never say no to Pakistan attitude toward India's prominent factor for the growing gulf between India and China. Therefore, the emerging global order is very complex. That time only is the answer for it. Thank you for your patience, and once again, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivas, and I must say that you have spoken quite in detail about all the parameters and all the aspects which exist in terms of the India-China relation, and I would be looking forward for certain answers which I have in my mind listening to your paper, and certainly we'll have more discussion on this. So with this, I think we have the first rush presentation, and now I can officially, at least open the session, and then I can start my bit on the aspect of the South Asia. And Sir has very nicely limited the presentation to 5 minutes, 50 seconds. And I would request for that, I'm glad, sir, I didn't have to give you a deadline of 8 to 10 minutes and other things like that, a stopper and all of that. So a few remarks before we start the panel, and before we get into the panel. We'll be getting 8 to 10 minutes. I request everyone to limit the presentation in between 8 to 10 minutes, because so that we have at least 30 minutes for the discussion. We have diversity of papers, and all the papers are equally interesting, as I was reading into the title of the papers. So it is not just limited to the South Asian integration, it is getting into the bilateralism and multilateralism in South Asia, which makes it so interesting and so intriguing. So considering all of that, I'm trying to manage the time so that we can have more discussion. And so 8 to 10 minutes as given by the organizing team, 8 to 10 minutes should be enough. And we have 10 presentations. One is already over, 9 more to go. As we can see, the panel is on the South Asia region per se, we can say. And what we can take as an agenda to explore is that we have to deconstruct it today, and we have to understand that how it can be probed further, not just today but also in the future aspect. South Asia and the region is not something which is to be limited here, but rather it is to be explored continuously. And we have diversity of papers, as I can see. It is also COVID-19, the pandemic with which we are going through, is included here. And then we have people presenting, we have scholars presenting on India, US, and Russia. And we have other papers on the 5th generation war in Pakistan, rising China and its implications in India, Singapore, and papers like that. So before I begin to take all the presentations, in international relations, we know that regionalism has established itself as a widely accepted principal framework for the economic growth, and that is through the cooperative engagement, particularly in the context of globalization. And even to tell you about my paper is situated as as a basically an attempt to explore the alternative to this kind of impetus for the regional integration, and that is why the paper is titled as Culture as an Undercurrent to South Asian Integration. I have always been a student of cultural studies and South Asian studies, and tried to bring the alternative perspective to what we have already done, what we will be doing through the statist perspective. Now, regional integration helps countries to overcome divisions that impede the flow of goods, services, capital, people, and ideas. And we all have been the student of that. We all have been studying the processes related to it. And these divisions are basically the constraint to economic growth, especially in developing countries when we talk about it. And this is not me stating, but this has been stated by World Bank through its report. There are multiple successful regional blocs as well, like European Union, ASEAN, NAFTA, AU, and several others, but South Asian integration, South Asian Association is one such type of integration. SAARC can claim considerable success in the conceptual evolution and in laying down theoretical groundwork where a number of creative ideas have been formulated, articulated, and endorsed. The changing regional dimensions, increasing people-to-people contact, especially owing to Web 2.0, has given us promise to have a comprehensive impact in strengthening SAARC. And not only as a regional instrument for economic cooperation, but also as a forum for building political and strategic understanding among all its members. And we must accept and understand that South Asia is still far away from the goal of regional integration and community building that is evident in EU, European Union, and ASEAN. But its people have come to the realization that they cannot afford to continue to exist as a region of contention and conflict, particularly when opportunities for development and cooperation are staring at them in face. And in the previous panel also, like when I was listening to the presentations, and as Mr. Tiwari mentioned, that I'm not ready to accept the fact, because there has been a lot of attempts which has been made to make it happen, but sadly it couldn't. But there is a voice from the side of the people, and we call it like people-to-people contact has been much. Especially if you look into the contribution of South Asian University, I will speak particularly being an alumni of the university. And we have seen it happening. So peace within SAARC remains an elusive goal despite its emergence as a regional entity in the international political system. And we all agree to it. In light of this, considering what is there, cultural integration appears to be a way to address these issues. Culture could be used as an instrument of integration, and we know that culture transcends the border. And that is why at the level of the people to people, there is a tremendous reservoir of goodwill towards each other, despite interstate tensions. And we have seen it. There are certain good stories. There is a cover of partition narrative where you will find, there is a cover of India-Nepal relation where you will find people telling the story of peace, not at the state level, but at least at the people-to-people level. The drawing of the geographical boundary at the time of partition certainly divided the people. The construction of national identities drew new boundaries. As the states have engaged themselves in building exclusive national identities that rejected commonality. So there is a statist intervention in those areas. While policies belong to states, culture belongs to the people. And there is a constant tension between the two. There is a temptation to discover commonality across culture and countries and emphasize on similarities. And there is also a need to learn, appreciate difference instead of perpetually seeking superficial commonalities and meaningless similarities. Now, there are many ways to realize integration, but this particular paper, which I am presenting it to you today, is basically is an attempt to utilize the concept of cultural integration by taking an inspiration from the religious teachings. And here I'll be talking about teachings from three major South Asian religions, and which have formed the bedrock of the South Asian integration. And the first is going to be Islam, and from Islam, I have taken up the concept of Deen Ilahi. So Deen Ilahi is the religion of God. It was a system of religious belief. It was basically a system of belief that was introduced by Mughal Emperor Akbar in 1582. And his idea was to combine Islam and Hinduism into one faith, but also to add aspects of Christianity, Zoroastrianism, and Jainism. And this system was brought in place at a time when South Asia was a single entity, and Mughal Emperor was spread over a large part of it. The idea of this religious system was to take elements from all the religious systems and synthesize them, thereby making arrangements and adjustments for everyone, which in turn would lead to everyone's betterment. And this is the crude idea of regional integration. While Deen Ilahi tried to synthesize various cultures into one, similar ideas can become the building blocks of cultural integration in the current times. Now, the second religion, which I'll be talking about Sikhism and Sufism together. Now, these two religions focused on building bridges of love, tolerance, coexistence, and harmony among people of diverse faiths and socio-economic status. The two religions were in mutually relationship. The commonalities of the values and principles which the gurus and Sufis had been teaching their followers was centered around the theme of humanism. By creating egalitarian communities within a stratified society, the Sufis and the Sikhs spread their teaching of love, spirituality, and harmony. It was this example of brotherhood and equity that drew people to these religions. For inclusive transformational leadership, which South Asia lacks for sure, we need to draw an inspiration from this kind of leadership that Guru Nanak exhibited. He led his Hindu and Muslim followers by examples, so much so that he erased from his followers' minds the differences of ethnicity, faith, and caste. He unified them around an ethos that promoted the well-being of all humans. It is the idea of such a unison that could eventually lead to a robust regional integration policy in South Asia. So this is about Sikhism, Sufism, and Islam. The last religion which I would like to talk about is Buddhism. The teachings of Buddhism, we know that it centers around virtues such as love, loving kindness, humanity, patience, and giving. But perhaps they value wisdom and compassion most of all. The idea of ahimsa or harmlessness is very closely connected with compassion. It defines compassion as a desire to cause no harm to all beings, including animal, plants, and the world in general. The Noble Eightfold Path of Buddhism contains within itself the idea of cooperation, harmony, coexistence, and honest work. Buddhism has appealed to people from all walks of life as it renunciated caste system and proposed equality, even gender equality. Buddhism is religion of accommodation and flexibility that has allowed and that allows all sorts of people to be part of the Sangha. Just as the teachings of previously discussed religions, Buddhism can also contribute to the idea of cultural integration in South Asia by rising above the real politics, by rising above the state-centric understanding of the regional integration. So in conclusion, I would like to say that in order to restore peace and harmony in South Asia and provide impetus to the process of regional integration, we do not need to look further afield. We simply should revisit the basic precepts of Sufism, Sikhism, and Buddhism for lessons to be learned. In a shrinking, interdependent world, especially today, nations should tear down walls of hatred, hostility, and self-defeating zero-sum designs to undermine each other. These artificial human obstacles to their collective progress should be replaced by honest, result-oriented efforts to achieve regional integration for peace and prosperity. That is what the great Sufis, gurus, and preachers of Central Asia and South Asia proposed and promoted, so that human tragedy was replaced by human harmony through universal human service and fraternity under one beneficent, merciful God and its many different beautiful manifestations. With this, I'll close my talk because this is what I had to speak about my paper and also about the idea which I have on which I work continuously. And if there are any questions, any feedback, I will take it in the question answer session. And now I invite our next presenter, Dr. Sanjay Kumar Hazara. Are you here, sir? I now invite Shivani. She's a research scholar at Central University of Himachal Pradesh, and she's going to speak on India, US, Russia, defense and security relations in 21st century. Shivani, are you here?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
I'll be sharing the screen.
Yeah, please.
My screen is visible.
Yes, it is visible.
So, good evening to all the experts and fellow speakers. My name is Shivani, and I am a PhD scholar in Department of Political Science, Central University of Himachal Pradesh. My topic of my presentation is India, US, Russia, defense and security relations in 21st century. So to begin with, I would like to introduce the international environment is basically subject to change with the change in leadership and policies of the key players. The end of Cold War rivalry brought new opportunities as well as challenges to most of the countries in the world. So the collapse of Soviet Union basically led to the restructuring of international world order, and because of which both USA and both USA and India felt the need to enhance their bilateral relationship in various sectors such as economic, security, defense, and so on. The visit of Mr. Picklighter led to the beginning of military-to-military cooperation in 1991. President Clinton also paid a hugely successful visit to India in year 2000, and after his visit, the relations between both the countries grew subsequently. And the most important and landmark cornerstone was the civil nuclear deal in 2008. Also, President Barack Obama even described India-USA relationship as the most defining partnership of 21st century. In 2016, USA designated India as a major defense partner, as a result of which in 2018, India was elevated to strategic authorization Tier 1 status, which allow India to receive license-free access to wide range of military and dual-use technologies. US-India Defense Trade Cooperation continues to expand with agreements like LIMUA, CONCASA, and Industrial Security Agreement, and most recent BECA. So there is an increase in total defense trade with India and between India and USA from nearly zero in 2008 to over $20 billion in 2020. Now I would like to continue with India and Russia. So after the disintegration of Soviet Union in 1991, under President Boris Yeltsin, who continued the policy of building cooperation with US and West, there were calls for a pragmatic renewal of ties with India. And during the Yeltsin visit to India in 1993, the Treaty of Friendship and Cooperation was signed between India and Russia, which replaced the Treaty of 1971, Treaty of Peace, Friendship and Cooperation. The Indo-Russian relations attained a new height and momentum with a sign of declaration on strategic partnership during the visit of President Putin in 2001. India and Russia have enjoyed a strong historical ties. Russia remains India's most reliable supplier for high-tech quality military equipment. Russia supplies more than 70% of India's defense need, including the state-of-art weapon system and technologies. The major Russian defense export include the fighter aircraft such as MiG-21, main battle tanks like T-72Mi helicopters, anti-tank missiles, anti-ship missiles, submarines, nuclear submarines, aircraft carriers, etc. In a landmark deal in 2004, India agreed to buy the 12 MiG-29 fighter aircraft. The aircraft was delivered in 2008. The defense cooperation between India and Russia is not just limited to procurement of weapons, but also include the production of many weapons systems in India, like MiG-21M, Sukhoi 30 MK, and T-72 tanks, etc. It also covers areas like joint research and development and service-to-service cooperation. One of the most striking examples of Indo-Russian relations was the joint endeavor to develop, manufacture, and market the supersonic anti-ship cruise missile system, the BrahMos. Now, when we come to US and Russia, since Cold War, as we all know, US and Russia stands apart, largely due to ideological differences over various regional as well as international issues, which are responsible for promotion of strategic stalemate, causing the existing cold peace between the two countries. So the susceptibility and doubts, lack of clarity in thought somehow present and is responsible for creating a Cold War-like situation between both the countries. The United States relationship with Russia today is worse than it has been since 1985. US Congress has imposition of CAATSA as a punishment on Russia for allegedly interfering in US presidential election, its annexation of Crimea and Ukraine, plus its support for Syria, al-Assad in brutal civil war, and Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro have raised tensions between US and Russia. So the areas of possible convergence, and the role of India. So India can play a major role in bringing both the countries to negotiation table, as India share in major interest with both the countries, Russia and USA, like Iranian crisis, Afghan crisis, Ukraine and Crimea, Indo-Pacific region, terrorism, climate change, rise of China, etc. If USA and Russia will cooperate to some extent in at least common security issues, then it will help to solve many strategic differences. For example, it is because of USA and Russia, the tensions that Russia is, it is because of US and Russia tensions that Russia is following a pro-Afghanistan policy. If both of them, US and Russia, will come together on a common ground, it can help also India to get a strategic maneuver in the region. Also, the differences between US and Russia is responsible for Russia moving closer to China, which is not in the interest of both US, China, US, Russia, and India. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Shivani, for the wonderful presentation and getting us to the trilateral relation between India, US, and Russia. I think this is something we need to talk about, and certainly I have certain observations relating to the presentation, but I'll be speaking and asking your thought about it later when we are in the Q&A and the discussion round. But I must say, wonderful presentation, especially in terms of understanding the conundrum which exists at the international order, especially keeping the legacy of Cold War in mind and keeping what is happening today, especially in terms of India, keeping India in the perspective and talking about the US and Russia relation. So that's a wonderful thought to put forward, wonderful analysis. Now I would like to invite Dr. Sanjay. Are you here? Your audio is working. If not, I'll move forward and I'll invite now Badaruddin Kalhoro, if I'm pronouncing it correct. If not, kindly, I'm sorry for the mispronunciation. If it is like that, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And he's a researcher at PICSS and Pakistan. and he's going to speak on the fifth generation war and Pakistan. Mr. Badaruddin, are you here? Is he here?
Hello.
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Hello.
Badaruddin. Yes,
जी
hello,
जी जी
hello. वालेकुम सलाम. मैंने कहा वालेकुम सलाम. कैसे हैं आप? खैरियत?
खैर खैरियत है. First of all, I am thankful for Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement teams, and especially Dr. Vaishali. First of all, I introduce myself. I am Badaruddin Kalhoro, basically belong to Pakistan, Ladkana, Sindh. I have completed my master degree in international relations from Shah Abdul Latif University. Okay. Now, first of all, I introduce my topic, fifth generation war and Pakistan. Okay. The fifth generation war has become a prime topic within the political, academic, and military circle. It is necessary to understand then earlier warfare generation gain inside the concept of a fifth generation warfare. The fourth generation warfare include first generation warfare line columns, second generation trench warfare, third generation menu warfare, fourth generation irregular warfare, guerrilla warfare. The prime difference between the fourth generation and fifth generation warfare was introduced military scholar William Land, United States, Colonel Kit Nightingale, Captain John F. Smith, Colonel Joseph W. and Lieutenant Colonel Ray Wilson. The global security dilemma has led identification of the modern generation warfare. The difference between fifth generation and hybrid war. The hybrid warfare shown manifestation evolving itself continuously. The fifth generation hybrid is a nature. The fifth generation and hybrid war required the different perspective. Previous generation warfare from warfare, the fifth generation warfare can be described as a decentralized from the warfare. It is characterized the blurring lines between the combatant and the civilian. Pakistan and fifth generation, the hybrid threat become focus security, academia, military understand the concept of fifth generation since inception of fifth generation warfare in 2000. The South Asia security environment has changed dramatically with few keys development dominating security agenda in the recent past. Global security faced by Pakistan, the modern world characterized by the explosion, the rapid advancement and the fact and military, art and science. No exception, modern transformation, expansion, no concept technique has replaced the conventional doctrine. Sino-Russia alliance. The Russians between China relations improved the increased hostility Europe and United States towards Russia. Both country cooperation, numerous infrastructure and energy projects, defense ties, strategic partnership has been the reinforced comfort common enemy, that is the United States. Battle narrative in a cyberspace. The expanding cyberspace provide the fertile ground of the battle narrative, cyber acting in for hybrid threat, consequently complicating security concern state and adopting the managing every possible tactic, influence the stance and adversary. The purpose of a deformation is to the mislead. The information is created, the distribute with the intent of causing harm is used government and non-government organization and informal group of contemporary modern history and say public opinion domestically, internationally through influence operation. See climate change affecting national security, regional security challenges faced by Pakistan, instability in Afghanistan, major power rivalry, interest of world power in the Middle East, Iran and United States strained ties, border dispute, Domestic challenges to Pakistan and hybrid threat. Recommendation solution for a Pakistan fifth generation successfully. It is suggested that fifth generation warfare threat are convention of the days. More focus required to ensure the stability, security, and a few recommendation and given below that the necessary component fifth generation hybrid threat in Pakistan. Number one, contemporary intelligence tech and modernization of military equipment. Number two, war gaming and training for a possible threat. Number three, understanding the net and jet concept of a spending. They process the enable to net capabilities. Number four, state need to ensure the development provision necessary capability in domain including police, administration, civil protection, and justice. Number five, the successful hybrid strategy could combine political action with the disinformation campaign, denial in the disinformation campaign at the state level, and limited the rapid military report. And number six, state can drive societal change, the targeting in the cultural value, insurgent and general population fighting in the intellectual level. Insurgency adversary wages war and eventually winning the war of perception domestic and internationally. Number seven, Pakistan needs to work the cyber security warfare, provide easy measure for the multifunctional and financial institution government without the detection of origin. Number eight, analysis Pakistan foreign ties and closing the fund of resources to the lending threat. Eight. Conclusion. Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Ji, ma'am, I concluded my session.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. You have spoken.
Sorry, ma'am. Conclude कर रहा हूँ मैं.
जी.
Fifth generation war can be described as decentralized from the warfare and characterized by bordering lines. It can be also characterized and counter-insurgency, the main target of fifth generation and hybrid war. And the explosion, societal, economic and political domestic fault line, the threat post fifth generation war, hybrid warfare, the much relevant in the South Asia state, Pakistan is facing many threats to its sovereignty by internal force and hostile state, like many other countries ideologically, religiously front also. The is attacking Pakistan from without the waging war through secessionist, extremist, terrorist, and proxies for thousand cut strategy. Any conventional war adventure against Pakistan would be costly and adversary after they overrate nuclearization of the state. Therefore, fighting the hybrid war against the Pakistan under the rubric nuclear arm has become a carry strategy and potentially adversary. Pakistan is addressing and hybrid threat and protectively but persistent fifth generation hybrid challenges call wide-ranging discourse far and depth understanding this every evolving threat perception and gearing up all the request measure to amount a potent response. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Badaruddin ji. You have spoken quite well on what is the idea of war and warfare strategy, and I'm sure we have now a lot of thoughts going on that what kind of fifth generation war we can see in South Asia, and also certainly about the security dilemma which the country has. And I would like to give you I have certain questions certainly regarding the cyber warfare strategy and things like that, but I'll be coming next to it. Now we have the next presentation by Mr. Arushi Anthal. Are you here? Arushi? Okay, yeah. Arushi is a research scholar at University of Jammu, and she's going to speak today on rising China and its implications on India-Singapore relations. Arushi, over to you.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Perfect.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I am Arushi Anthal. I am an MPhil scholar from University of Jammu from the Department of Strategic and Regional Studies. And the topic I'll be presenting today is Rising China and its implications on India-Singapore relations. Now, this presentation will be based on the following themes. First is I'll be telling you a concise gist of India-Singapore relations. Second, where does China fit in all this, and how has the rise of China impacted India-Singapore relations? And I will be concluding thereafter. So without any further ado, I'll start with the presentation. I'm going to divide India-Singapore relations into 4 phases. The very first is the pre-colonial phase, wherein, see, the name Suvarnadvipa and Suvarnabhumi, which were used, they already suggest that there were ties during this period. Okay, basically, the ties were primarily based on maritime trade and spread of religion, especially Brahmanism and Buddhism, and to some extent invasions too. For example, we have the Chola invasion of the Srivijaya kingdom. In fact, there are different versions of Ramayana and Mahabharata still existing in Southeast Asian peninsula. Other than after the pre-colonial phase, we have the colonial phase. And Singapore, as we all know, it was established in 1819 by Stamford Raffles, but it was still governed out of Calcutta until 1867 under East India Company. So the colonial ties between India and Singapore, they were primarily based on the priorities of British colonialists, which were basically to ensure and secure their trade with East Asia. So East Asia, particularly that time, during that period, meant China. Then we move on to post-independence phase. And this phase, we all know it was the Cold War period. So this phase was characterized by ideological divide between both the countries, as both the countries belong to different blocs. See, India's commitment towards non-alignment movement and a slight tilt towards erstwhile USSR, whereas Singapore belonged to the US bloc. Second can be the India's inward-looking policy. It also made it impossible for both the countries to come on the same page because Singapore was an export-oriented economy. And third is, though there was some familiarity between the leadership during that time, but this could not turn into anything concrete because there were no converging interests at that moment. So the last phase I would be talking about is the post-1991 phase. India, as we all know, was faced with balance of payment crisis, and we introduced the LPG reforms. P.V. Narasimha Rao also introduced Lookie's policy during this period. But while India suffered from balance of payment crisis and we introduced liberalization and globalization, privatization, on the other hand, Southeast Asia, altogether had turned into this vibrant region, a successful region wherein Singapore especially, it had this exemplary success for a country which almost had no resources. So this is my theme 1, which was an overview, a small gist of India-Singapore relations. I'll be moving forward with where does China fit in all this and how has it affected India-Singapore relations. Now, both India and China hold considerable influence in Singapore to the extent that Southeast Asia has been sometimes also known as, especially the mainland Southeast Asia, it is also sometimes referred to as the Indo-Chinese Peninsula. During post-independence phase, India witnessed the Indo-China War in 1962. Simultaneously, Singapore during that period, despite of having majority Chinese ethnic population, did not establish any diplomatic relations until 1990 with China, because it did not want itself to be portrayed as a pro-China biased country. Also, it wanted to shed the image of third China. So contemporarily, if we see, Singapore is trying to, emphasizing on the importance of strategic cooperation with India, but simultaneously, it is engaging China for its economic interactions, especially the Belt and Road Initiative. India-Singapore are getting closer, as we can see through bilateral agreement on Air Force training. We also have maritime exercises such as Milan. We have Simbex, and they've been bilateral agreement on naval cooperation too. Economic cooperation through SICA, double taxation avoidance agreement, etc. In fact, one can say that Singapore is seen to be exercising this balancing diplomacy between two emerging giants of Asia. In the initial years, Singapore believed that it was only India that could look China in the eye. In fact, Singapore was convinced that Southeast Asia needed India to cope with China because it believed that ASEAN and India together, they commanded this considerable weightage, especially in international and regional sphere. So that is why it was convinced that it needed India. Even Lee Kuan Yew, who is the first Prime Minister of Singapore, he believed that India could be one and the only possible power, responsible power that could stabilize the region from China and also communist forces. A point worth noting here is that India-Singapore relations are mutually advantageous, and it is the rise of China that provides us with this excellent opportunity to expand India's influence in Southeast Asia. So let's move further and understand how China's rise has brought India and Singapore together. Now, Singapore is inherently sensitive to the presence of any hegemonic power, especially a power which has the power, the capacity, and the intention to set and dominate any regional agenda. In fact, secondly, enhancing ties with multiracial, multi-regional India will help it to distance itself from the image of the third China. Thirdly, Singapore is a small island nation state which lacks in resources, whereas India, on the other hand, is world's 7th largest country, which has huge stock of resources and a very impressive demographic dividend. So this is how China's rise has brought India and Singapore together. Now I will move on the last part of my presentation, which will be the conclusion. So traditionally, India and ASEAN ties were based on trade and people-to-people ties because of our shared historical and cultural roots. Though it is true that post-1991 reforms were a paradigm shift for both the countries as India started looking outwards, but the meteoric rise of China happens to be a major factor for rapid advancement of ties in the contemporary times, as nothing brings two countries together than a common purpose. Singapore remains a significant country for India as since historical times, it has acted as a gateway to Southeast Asia. And in addition to it, which is very important, Singapore is very strategically and advantageously placed in the Indo-Pacific region, which is an emerging geostrategic region. So the rise of China presents India with an opportunity to fulfill its goal of becoming a legitimate power by expanding its influence in Southeast Asia. Because for India to achieve its goal, it is important for India to shed its inhibitions and go beyond new horizons, new frontiers in this interdependent and multiplex world. So this is my presentation. This was it for my presentation. Thank you, everybody. And especially NICE, which gave me this opportunity to put forth my points. And thank you. Have a great day. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Arushi.
Yes, ma'am.
Well reasoned out the idea of how India-Singapore relation can work, especially in terms of balancing China and when we look into Asian perspective and Asian rivalry especially. So it has been a wonderful presentation, and I have certain thoughts which I'll be sharing later.
Sure.
You were well in time as well, so I never realized to give you a heads up for the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we have, next we have Praveen Kumar, and Praveen is also a research scholar, and he's a research scholar at Central University of Himachal Pradesh. And his topic is economics of India as a strategy in Southeast Asia, overcoming Chinese dominance. So I'm assuming we have a lot to discuss about China, India, South Asia, and Southeast Asia today. Praveen, over to you.
Hello, ma'am. Very good evening.
Very good evening, Praveen.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Ma'am, I'll be sharing my screen.
Please.
Is the screen visible, ma'am?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, so my topic is economics of India's strategy in Southeast Asia, overcoming Chinese dominance. I'm basically a research scholar from Central Institute of Himachal Pradesh. My topic is related to India, ASEAN, and China. So there is an interconnectedness between the three players in the Southeast Asian regions. First of all, I'll try to give out the historical background to the interconnectedness between the three players. After that, I'll try to portray their economic linkages such as between India and ASEAN, and after that between ASEAN and China. Further, I'll show them what are the effects of such economic engagements over strategic options and political outcomes. So I'll begin my paper. In the modern era, India's full-fledged engagement with Southeast Asia or its extended neighborhood started in the post-independence period. This was keeping in line with their cultural and historical ties and relations. Post-Cold War, economic considerations and market forces came to play a more important role as compared to ideological factors during the Cold War period. Triumph of capitalism combined with the end of bloc politics due to disintegration of USSR gave India's economic diplomacy greater impetus. During this period, India's low-cost policy was an extension of its liberal trade policies, along with an opportunity for strategic engagement within the Southeast Asian region in the changed regional and global scenario. India's quest for enhanced engagement was reciprocated by ASEAN-India Full Dialogue Partnership in 1996, Summit Partnership in 2002, and Strategic Partnership in 2012. Besides, strategy and security economics played a vital role. Engagements between India and ASEAN meant mutual access to wider market, technology, and investment. India was opening its economy domestically as well as internationally. Its liberalized trade policies reflected in the engagements with its extended neighborhood of Southeast Asia as well. In contrast to China, India was still a latecomer on economic front. India was opening up to international trade and politics in Southeast Asia at a time when China was already experiencing very high growth rates. However, thanks to ASEAN, that both India and China engaged in the region for trade, cooperation, and consensus, that is, all the factors which would promote peace, stability, and progress in the region. However, the change in power and capabilities of China and various other medium powers in the region has lessened the superiority of ASEAN-based regionalism.
Sorry to interrupt you, Praveen. I think we are only seeing the first slide. Aapke paas aur slides hain? Can you change it? You have more slides, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So please.
So the changes in power and capabilities of countries like China, India, and various other medium powers has lessened the superiority of ASEAN-based regionalism. It is mainly through bilateral relations, through aid diplomacy, investments, trade, and various other factors that where ASEAN lacks, or there is a gap in regional politics, that these players, especially medium players or major powers, have come to fill it up. So even though defense expenditure and capabilities have also improved, there are nearly no direct manifestations of it. On the other hand, rising economic capabilities of China shows direct implications in the region. Through its use of economic diplomacy and dominance in the regional value chain, China gets leverage in strategic affairs as well. For example, with respect to Philippines and Vietnam, China enjoys significant leverage which affects strategic decisions of these respective countries. India's trade with ASEAN has improved considerably after the two players like ASEAN and India signed ASEAN-India Free Trade Agreement in 2009. Trade volumes have risen from $44 billion in 2010 to $97 billion in 2019. In terms of trade figures, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Thailand are the top players, with each having more than $10 billion trade with India. Singapore remains the top performer by contributing nearly 25% of the total trade figure. Among the low performers are countries like Philippines, Myanmar, Brunei, Cambodia, and Laos. So out of low-income countries, or also known as CLMV countries, Vietnam is the only country that has significant trade volumes with India. Bilateral trade between ASEAN and India presently accounts for almost 11% of India's global trade. Even though it is driven mostly by imports, like from Indian side, India's trade with ASEAN has grown faster than that with the world at large. So it denotes or depicts the centrality of ASEAN in India's economic diplomacy and economics and strategy making. The next thing is that India-ASEAN trade figures, even though they have dwindled due to the effects of pandemic, China's trade volumes registered 38.2% year-on-year growth in the first half of financial year 2021. China also remains ASEAN's largest trading partner for 12 consecutive years. The economic ascendancy of China gives it leverage in dealing with ASEAN nations. However, the story differs from country to country. Low-income countries like Vietnam, which have lately become highly integrated in the regional value chain, depend on China for their export earnings. Such a dependence over China, however, comes at the cost of downgrading the importance of strategic concerns in bilateral relations with China. In the case of Philippines, its bilateral trade with China reached $50 billion by 2019, with Philippines enjoying very high growth rate on a year-on-year basis. China was also a top country in providing investments to Philippines in 2018, and it was second in 2019. Such positive trade linkages cannot be unlinked from the changing strategic perspectives of respective countries. For instance, Philippines under President Duterte had pointed towards revisiting its treaty with the US. Therefore, some amount of correlation can be drawn between improved trade linkages, investment inflow on one side, and the shifts in political strategic orientation of ASEAN countries on the other. Apart from trade, China also provides aid and investment in the region. On the investment front, ASEAN has become one of China's major outbound investment destinations and sources of foreign direct investment. Mutual investment between China and ASEAN exceeded $310 billion as of June 2021, while the business revenue of Chinese enterprises from the project contracts in ASEAN countries approached $350 billion. In accordance with China's increasing capability, such as establishment of Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, that is AIIB, also provides a larger role to China in influencing infrastructure financing and development in the region. Through its regional focus, AIIB can help to provide renewed impetus to infrastructure development in the region. Although AIIB helps in providing a new source of multilateral investment, it is also indicative of unequal relationship between China and ASEAN nations. Similarly, Sino-centric trade and investments have also increased dependency of ASEAN nations over China, thereby affecting their strategic options in the region as well. Analysis of South China Sea. So if we come to the South China Sea issue and the response of contending countries like Philippines and Vietnam, it highlights how economic dependency would affect overall policy choices for ASEAN nations. In such a situation where ASEAN nations are looking to diversify their trade relations, India can play an important role. India's support for ASEAN centrality and rule-based regional order, along with its own economic projections, will go a long way in fostering peace and progress in the region. However, the problem lies in India's lackluster behavior in improving trade relations and volumes. Therefore, issues like reducing non-tariff barriers, improving investment climate, focus on value chain linkages can help in fostering beneficial relations for both the players, that is India and ASEAN. Even though ASEAN-China engagement does not show any direct threat to regional peace, stability, or progress, its rising power, asymmetry, and Sinocentrism in political economy will have negative consequences for overall peace and progress in the region. Therefore, I would conclude by saying that India's comprehensive engagement, which would specifically encompass value chain linkages, hand-holding Indian investors in the region, such as there are many small and medium enterprises which would provide value to ASEAN economies, especially low-income countries such as CLMV countries. Other than that, sharing technical expertise, deepening and diversifying trade, along with improving aid diplomacy would be of mutual benefit for all the stakeholders in the region. Thank you so much for having me, ma'am. That is all.
Thank you so much, Praveen. Well thought paper and well presented also. The way you have spoken about the political as well as the economic narrative, that is something which we all have to think about, and the role of India, especially in the presence of China and Southeast Asia. So I'm sure you're working on it and you will be bringing us more understanding in the Q&A session when we have more questions. But anyways, wonderful presentation. Anyway, we have now, Himani Sharma, and Himani is a PhD candidate again from the Central University of Himachal Pradesh, and she is going to speak on ACT policy through the lens of connectivity. I'm sure I'm looking forward for certain ideas from communication, ICT per se. Himani, are you here?
Good evening, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, Himani. Very good evening. Over to you.
Ma'am, I'll be sharing the screen, and please let me know if it's audible, if you can hear,
please.
if you can see it.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Is it visible?
Not now. I think just wait for the moment where it will come. Are you sharing?
Yes, just give me a minute. For some reason, ma'am, I'm not able to.
I think I'll request the organizing team to help you out. Somebody is here. Did you already share your PPT with someone? Yeah, please send an email to Nimesh. Nimesh would be able to help you.
Good evening, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Okay. So for some reason, I'm not able to share the screen, but I'll begin with the presentation if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'll just tell you one thing. Nimesh has sent his email ID. Could you please email over there? Meanwhile, what I can do is I can invite the next presenter, and I have Dr. Sanjay and you for the next presentation after we are done with the order. Is that okay, Himani?
Okay, ma'am. That's fine.
Okay, I think that would be great because you have prepared your presentation, and it would not be good if you can't show the PPT.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, please coordinate with Nimesh. Nimesh has already given his email ID.
Okay, ma'am. I'll share this.
Yes. Now I would like to invite our next scholar, next panelist, Mr. Muhammad Omar Farooqi. Mr. Farooqi is a research assistant at the Center for Research and Development, and he'll be speaking on the Great Power rivalry in the Bay of Bengal, implications for India. Mr. Farooqi. Is he here, Mr. Farooqi? Yes, you're audible, but your voice is low. Can you speak a little louder? Is this a problem with me or with everyone?
No, we can't hear him.
Yeah, we can't hear him. And Dr. Srinivas is also saying I can't hear him, so I'm assuming we all can't hear him. Mr. Farooqi? Yes, Mr. Farooqi. Could you please speak a little louder? Yeah, I think. Mr. Farooqi, if you're using earphone, kindly remove it and then speak. Otherwise, I think you should try it from the other device. There is some issue with your voice. Mr. Farooqi? Okay. Ajay? Ajay is here? Ajay?
Hello. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, you're audible. Yes, yes, I can hear you. So Ajay, are you okay
Yes.
presenting next?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, Ajay, I'll take this opportunity to introduce Ajay. Ajay is a research scholar at Jawaharlal Nehru University, and he'll be speaking on India and Bangladesh, a study of continuity and change in Modi era. So, Ajay, thank you,
Yeah.
and over to you.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, I would like to thank you, ma'am, and I also extended my thank you to the Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement for providing me the platform to speak and organizing such a wonderful session. My topic for the today's topic for the presentation is India and Bangladesh, a study of continuity and change in Modi era. Am I audible, ma'am? Yeah. Okay. See,
Yes.
to begin with my presentation, I would like to start with a brief introduction of the historical background of the two countries. See, India and Bangladesh are the two immediate neighbors in the South Asian region. Unlike other neighbors, India shares its longest land boundary with Bangladesh. It is approximately 4,096 kilometers. And as per the geographical proximity, Bangladesh is in such a position that it's very important for the northeastern states of India in the connecting to the whole nation. So when we going through the historical background of the India and Bangladesh, we in 1971, during the liberation of war of Bangladesh, India wholeheartedly uh, cooperated with Bangladesh and provided materialistic and the moral support to the Bangladesh. And on the basis of this friendship, in 1972, the first Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and the Indian Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, they signed the Treaty of Friendship, Peace and Cooperation for the next 25 years. And it was assumed that India and Bangladesh, the relation between the India and Bangladesh going far, and the course of time, it becomes stronger. But after the assassination in Sheikh Mujibur Rahman in 1975, the drastic change was seen in India and Bangladesh. The military-backed government came into power in Bangladesh till the Ziaur Rahman, and after Ziaur Rahman, the H.M. Ishad government come into power, and both governments are the military-backed governments. So the relation between India and Bangladesh faces some deadlocks and setbacks during since then, because there's a lack of the political will in the high level of centers in both the countries. It is reflected on the relation between the two countries during that period. And if we talk about the last 2 decades in the India and Bangladesh relations, we found that the domestic compulsion has played a very important role, or I would say played a very critical role in the completion and the resolution of some other long-standing issues like land boundary agreement and the other sub-regional and sub-regional projects. Like for instance, in 2001, the BNP government come into power in Bangladesh, and it is also a fact that the BNP government and the Jamaat Islami was the coalition party in the BNP when BNP power in center in 2001. So there was a idea was floated by Asian Development Bank for the Trans-Asian Highway project. And secondly, there was also a project called India, Myanmar, Bangladesh Trilateral Gas Pipeline. Both the projects were very important for India and in the view of connectivity, but due to the unstable political situation between the two countries, or I would say the reluctance from the Bangladesh could not concluded that time. Since then, we have seen the drastic change in the India-Bangladesh relation was seen after the Awami League come into power in 2009. And both the country enjoy a different kind of relation. And the new building of mutual trust paved the way for the mutual trust and the cooperation, and also make stronger the binomial between the two countries. When we talk about the Modi government, the Modi government is come in 2014 by winning the election in India, and consecutively comes in second time in the 2019. On the other hand, the Awami League also secured the victory in Bangladesh in 2009, in 2014, and consecutively in 2018. So the continuity of the political will since 2009 played a very important role in India and Bangladesh relations. See, the Manmohan government, the former Prime Minister of India, the Manmohan government, he was the head of the state during the UPA 1 and the UPA 2 government since 2004 to 2014 in India. They have, India and Bangladesh, that time they have they engage, the diplomatic engagement was on a very good point, and it is also continued with the Modi government in 2014 and in 2019. See, the Modi government when came into power, the first change we see in the Modi government is Modi government has introduced the India's neighborhood first policy, which has played a very important role in the India and Bangladesh relation, because Bangladesh has a very prominent role in India's neighborhood policy. See, India's foreign Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee used to say, friends can change, but not neighbors who have to live together. A country's neighborhood must enjoy unquestioned primacy in its foreign policy making, and it is distinctly evident in the current Prime Minister of Modi's foreign policy mantra, which is called India's neighborhood first policy. See, India's neighborhood first policy have paved the way in the resolution of the long-standing agreement of land boundary agreement, the settlement of maritime dispute between India and Bangladesh, which has been very long-standing and hampered the relation of the two countries since very long. In the speak, I would like to mention that the speaking during the general debate of the 69th session of the United Nations General Assembly, the Narendra Modi aptly remarked, a nation's destiny is linked to its neighborhood. This is why my government has placed the highest priority in advancing friendship and cooperation with its neighbors. And the same kind of remarks also come in 2017 when Minister of External Affairs India, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj, paid a visit to Dhaka to attend a fourth meeting of the Indian-Bangladesh Joint Consultative Commission. She co-chaired the meeting with Mr. Abdul Hassan Muhammad Ali, Foreign Minister of Bangladesh. In her speech, she said, India is following a policy of neighbors first. And among the neighbors, Bangladesh is foremost. See, the official statement from the high-level government is clearly evident, clearly shows that they are very serious and very keen to build the benami between the two countries and make this trust, build the stronger cooperation between the two nations. See, after that, I would like to mention that there is an exchange in the Modi era is the maritime dispute, which I have also said just now. See, the maritime dispute has been a very long-standing dispute between India and Bangladesh. It is one among the most prominent dispute between India and Bangladesh. See, Bangladesh went in for the arbitration over the delimitation of maritime boundary under the United Nations Convention on Law of Sea on October 8, 2009. See, after the 5 year, the verdict has come. It's come in the favor of Bangladesh. According to the verdict, United Nations Tribunal awarding Bangladesh a 19,467 kilometers of the 25,602 square kilometer sea area of the Bay of Bengal. Basically, the argument focuses on the issue including the location of the land boundary terminus, delimitation of the territorial sea, and the exclusive economic zone, and the continental shelf within and beyond 200 nautical miles. See, verdict has welcomed by Indian government and as well as in the Bangladesh. So that these verdict has paved the way to for the two countries to come closer and resolve all other long-standing issues between them. See, there are some certain official statements come after the verdict, like Bangladesh Foreign Minister Muhammad Ali said that this is a victory of friendship between Bangladesh and India. The maritime dispute between the two countries has come to an end following the verdict. The verdict would take the relationship between the two countries one step forward. And in the Indian side, a statement also comes out, and the Indian External Affairs Ministry says that the boundary settlement will enhance mutual understanding and goodwill between India and Bangladesh by bringing a closer a long pending issues. India's welcoming of the decision is a solid demonstration of new Prime Minister Modi's emphasis on building closer links with India's neighbor. In addition to the verdict of maritime dispute, there are also some, we have seen also some cooperation during the Modi era. See, the India and Bangladesh signed the Blue Economy and Maritime Cooperation in the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean during the visit of Modi to Bangladesh in 2015. So the resolution of the maritime dispute, it's played a very important role in like such kind of agreements and MOUs, which also create the win-win situation for both the countries. So there is also there is another changes like changes that uh, the water distribution between India and Bangladesh has been a very long-standing issue between the two nations. It always hampered the relation between of the two countries. See, there are Tista water uh, agreement, which was to be signed during the 2011 visit of former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh to Bangladesh, but due to the domestic political compulsion and the denial of the uh, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, it could not concluded. The, otherwise, the draft has been finalized. The protocols has been finalized between the two countries. See, there is other change in the during the Modi era is the signing a memorandum of understanding on Feni River. See, India and Bangladesh has 54 common rivers, and Feni is one of them. Basically, the Feni River forms part of the India-Bangladesh border. It originates in the South Tripura district, and the river passes through the Sabroom town on the Indian side, and it meets the Bay of Bengal after it flows into Bangladesh. See, it is very interesting. It is very interesting to know that the issue of Feni River was taken up in 1958 when Bangladesh was a part of Pakistan. There was a secretary level meeting in New Delhi in 1958, and that issue was taken up. And from then, the issue is still hunting the relation of the two countries. But in August 2019, India and Bangladesh held a water secretary level meeting of the Joint River Commission in Dhaka. There it was agreed to collect data and prepare water sharing agreements for 7 rivers. The 7 rivers names, namely they are Manu, Muhari, Khowai, Gomati, Dharla, Dud Kumar, and Feni. As per the MOU, according to the MOU, the withdrawal of 1.8 cubic of water from the Feni River by India for a drinking water supply scheme for Sabroom town in Tripura. And basically, the issue has not uh, the issue has been not discussed very often in the relation of India Bangladesh. We have discussed the Ganges Water Treaty. We have discussed many times the sharing of the Ganges water, the Farakka Barrage, the Tipai Muk Dam, and the Tista, and so on and so forth. But the Feni River is a very long-standing issue which has not addressed properly. But in right now, the memorandum of understanding gave a chance to both the countries for a for the change in water distribution disputes between India and Bangladesh. See, the other, I would like to say, the other achievement, or I would say change in India and Bangladesh during the Modi era, is ratification of the land boundary agreement. See, Modi has visited Bangladesh in 2015, and he has signed the long-standing issue of land boundary agreement. It is also a fact that it was signed during the former Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, but it could not ratified that time. But in the government of Modi, because see, the domestic compulsion for the UPA government led by former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. So there is a domestic compulsion was there, and he has formed the government with the he formed a coalition government. But on the other hand, Modi government has a 2/3 majority. So as per the majority, he has certain authority to, there are some, so he have opportunity to resolve all other standing issues which has not concluded earlier. See, the ratification of land boundary resolves the three major issues, and I would also mention that India's neighborhood first, the land boundary ratification is also a part of India's neighborhood first policy. See, India gives attention to its neighbors, specifically to Bangladesh, and its outcome, we can say the outcome is the land boundary agreement. The ratification of the land boundary agreement basically resolve the three major issues. Firstly, 162 enclaves were exchanged, which were located along the India-Bangladesh border. Secondly, the exchange of adverse possession of each other's territories. And thirdly, approximately 6 kilometers new boundary was demarcated. See, the other prominent issue between India and Bangladesh is the cross-border migration, which also hamper India's relation with Bangladesh. Initially, there is a tribunal was set up to restrict the illegal migrants from the Bangladesh, and the tribunal was the IMDT, which stands for the Illegal Migrant Determinants by Tribunal. It was established in 1985 as a measure to detect the foreigners, particularly in Assam. But unfortunately, it could not get the desired results, and it was nullified by the Supreme Court of India in 2015. See, in the recent time, during the Modi government, the NRC was introduced. The National Registration of Citizenship was carried out in Assam under the supervision of India's Supreme Court. It is attempt to identify the illegal migrants from Bangladesh. See, the Bangladesh never accepted that in India there is a Bangladeshi illegal migrants, because and the reason behind for the reluctance to accepting this fact that the reliable data on the number of Bangladeshi migrants in India has been an obstacle in convincing Bangladesh for a dialogue. But in 2019, in the sideline of the United Nations General Assembly meeting in September 2019, the top leaders of the country, Mr. Prime Minister Modi and Sheikh Hasina, met in New York and discussed the issue. And it is hoped that soon the issue has been resolved. See, these kind of see, I would like also mention there are certain other changes during the Modi government, like perception. See, when the BJP government came into power, as like in 1998, when the Vajpayee government came into power, and the second time in 2014, Modi government came into power, BJP was the prominent party in the center. There is a perception among the some section of the policy makers and academicians that the BJP government has towards a special faith towards the Hindu nationalism, and the relation between the two countries would not get deeper during the Modi era. But in the contrast, in the view of these kind of changes and development between the two nations, we can say that the perception of that section of academicians and policymakers was not right, actually. the perception was changed after the Modi come into power. And the cooperation, we have seen the cooperation and development between the two countries. See, the other continuation in the India during the Modi government is that the economic relations of the two countries. See, in 2015, there are several memorandum of understanding signed between India and Bangladesh, and we can say, and according to the memorandum of understanding, two specific economic zones in Bangladesh for Indian investment was built as per the MOU. By the signing of the MOU, India became the third country after China and Japan to have shown interest in developing economic zones in Bangladesh. According to the previous government, is also working towards pave the way for the continuation in the economic relation between the two countries. See, in the conclusion of
Ajay,
my
Ajay, I'm so sorry. As much as we want to listen more about it, we have a time constraint, and I'm sure we'll have more questions about your presentation. Yes, please conclude in last 2 minutes, and then I'll invite you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. In conclusion, I would like to say that there are certain development in Modi era, and we also know that any regime or any regime in any nation has some policies which carry forward the new government. See, the UPA government have built the road for the Modi government. That's why the ratification of land boundary agreement happened. Modi government have given extra push to the previous policies, which is a very good thing. And adopting a neighborhood first policy is a very sharp move. You know, the Modi government has invited all the stakeholders in the South Asian region in the oath-taking ceremony. It was a very smart move by the Modi government. See, there are certain developments, changes like Feni rivers, which has been a very long-standing issue. Like we have discussed, like Teesta agreement and the watershed agreement on Ganges, but we have India and Bangladesh never gave attention to the Feni river dispute, which is also occurred in the relation since 1958, when Bangladesh was not a sovereign state. It was a part of Bangladesh that time. But recently, it is a very big move. In my opinion, it's a very big move for the water distribution disputes between India and Bangladesh. The second change in the government, the maritime dispute, the settlement of maritime dispute. See, maritime dispute has hampered the relation between the two countries since very long. And after the verdict came, it is hoped that both the countries would benefit it, and the relation of the two countries get more success. And on the other side, there is a long-standing issue, is like a long-standing issue of cross-border migration. Still, it is hampered the relation of the two countries, but as per the binomial between the two countries and the mutual trust between, as we see in the mutual trust between the two countries, it is hoped that both the countries would soon get the desired result. And it is very important to make this kind of binomial between the two nations further, and resolve other important and prominent issues. Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ajay. We have a lot to speak about your topic, and we have a lot to discuss over. But since we have paucity of time, we must proceed also. But I must thank you for bringing the timely conversation to all of us. Now, can I check with Himani? Himani, I think your presentation has reached Nimesh. And Nimesh, are you in a position to start the slideshow for her?
Yes, Dr. Vaishali.
Yeah, okay. So Himani, can I have you to present? Himani, she's going to speak on Act East policy. Yes, Act East policy through the lens of connectivity. Himani, over to
Good
you.
evening, ma'am. Am I
Very good
audible?
evening. Yes, you're audible.
All right. So good evening to everybody. And my topic for the session is Act East policy through the lens of connectivity. And so basically, before I start, I would like to, if you could kindly move on to the next slide, I would like to discuss yes, thank you so much. So I would like to discuss India and Southeast Asia. In brief, I would like to discuss about the evolution of the historic relationship between India and the Southeast Asian region. So India and Southeast Asia, of course, they've had historical ties, and these ties go back to the ancient India, wherein the Chola Empire, during the Chola Empire, we've had trade links, sea trade links with the Southeast Asian region. At the same time, trade was promoted by the Cholas, and culture was in a very big way promoted by Ashoka when he sent several senior priests from his kingdom to the Southeast Asian region to propagate Buddhism. And so while there was a lot of interaction between the two sides in the ancient period, unfortunately, when India gained independence in 1947 and the new independent India was sort of born, our foreign policy somewhere could not find the space for Southeast Asia. And one of the reasons for it was, of course, the Cold War period. And during the Cold War period, India had adopted the stance of non-alignment, and it wanted to stay non-aligned. And at the same time, the Southeast Asian countries were seen to be aligned with one of the power blocks, that was the US. And later on, of course, India slightly shifted, if you could put it that way, at least unofficially, towards USSR. So that led to a period of missed opportunity of sorts between India and Southeast Asia, where the two sides could not really interact as much. Of course, post-Cold War era, if we could move to the next slide, post-Cold War era ushered in a new period of cooperation between the two sides. And this basically happened because in the post-Cold War era, India suffered severe balance of payment crisis. At the same time, internationally also, with the collapse of the USSR, India was looking at newer markets. And Southeast Asia at that time appeared to be a very strong market for India. And that is when India decided to look towards Southeast Asian region. And this is when the historic Look East policy was launched. And now one thing that I'd like to say here is that as far as India is concerned, ASEAN is what India sees as the core of its engagement with the Southeast Asian region. So, of course, we have bilateral engagement with the countries in the region, but at the same time, we also look at ASEAN as one of the core principles or one of the core institutions which define our interaction with Southeast Asia. So very briefly, again, India becomes a sectoral partner of ASEAN in 1992, which is followed by, the membership of the ASEAN Regional Forum in 1996, Summit Partnership in 2002, and Strategic Partnership in 2012. Now, of course, 2014, sort of marks a new beginning, or brings in a new synergy in India's interaction with Southeast Asia, because this is when India adopts the Act East policy. Now, what Look East to Act East fundamentally signifies is not just a change in naming or a change in nomenclature. Rather, India also wants to engage with the region more vigorously, and there is a renewed shift in terms of India's engagement with the Southeast Asian region. So Southeast Asia has always been a very important part for India, and India considers it to be a part of its extended neighborhood. Now, of course, under the Act East policy, connectivity is something which has emerged as a very, very important linchpin as far as India's engagement with the Southeast Asian region is concerned. And in this context, it's very important to understand that it's not just India which looks at connectivity very, very strongly. Also, the Southeast Asian region is very keen on promoting connectivity. And this connectivity can be physical connectivity, it can be digital connectivity, it can be, institutional connectivity. So basically, Southeast Asian region has also put forward its ASEAN master plan on connectivity, and India is also looking to promote connectivity with the region. So as a consequence of that, there is a wonderful synergy of sorts between what India is looking for in the region and what ASEAN is looking for as well. So under connectivity, of course, India has had several initiatives, and these initiatives include, for example, the India-Myanmar Thailand Trilateral Highway, right, which will connect India, More in India with Mae Sot in Thailand via Myanmar. And India has also proposed that perhaps this could be extended further, this highway could be extended further to include Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. At the same time, India has also, is also promoting another connectivity project in the form of Kaladan Multimodal Transport project. And this project is basically trying to connect a seaport in Kolkata with Sitwe port in the Rakhine state of Myanmar via sea. And this connectivity project is very important, not just for India, but it's also very important for Myanmar, considering Rakhine state has always been an epicenter of, the disturbance for Myanmar, and the entire Rohingya crisis has unleashed in the Rakhine state. So as a consequence of that, this particular project has a lot of potential to solve a lot of outstanding issues in the region. At the same time, India is also looking to promote air connectivity between ASEAN and Southeast Asian countries, and this was involve setting up of new airport projects in the northeastern region, and at the same time, it would also involve the upgradation of the projects which are or the airports which are already there, so as to meet international standards and to be able to manage heavy air traffic. Then at the same time, border hearts are something which India has had border hearts with Bangladesh, and they've been quite a success. So India wants to promote the similar culture or similar object of border hearts between India and the Southeast Asian region as well. So this implies that, of course, a lot of connectivity projects are being taken up by India in the Southeast Asian region. But I think the question that comes to anybody's mind is, why so much focus on connectivity, and why is it that India would like to look at connectivity so strongly? And I think the reason behind this is because India looks at connectivity and connectivity projects as the key, or rather the linchpin, which would help India unleash its various economic, security, cultural, geopolitical objectives in the Southeast Asian region and under the Act East policy. The one of the most important reasons why India is looking to promote connectivity is because of economics. And on one hand, of course, better connectivity would help the free movement of people, goods, and services between India and Southeast Asian region, and this would have very positive effect for the Northeast India, because Northeast India, it is connected to mainland India through the narrow Siliguri corridor, which is called as the Chicken's Neck. And unfortunately, the fact that it's not as connected with mainland India has resulted in the lack of economic development of the northeast India. And of course, if India is able to build good connectivity projects in this region, so it would really with Southeast Asia and would help promote economic development in the Southeast Asian region in the form of trade and in goods and services. So that would be really nice. And this economic development would have repercussions on the security and insurgency in Northeast as well. As we already know that there are a lot of insurgents groups that are operating in the northeastern region. So one of the ways, if we are able to capitalize on development, and if we are able to promote development, then that development will spill over, and perhaps the government hopes that it will also take care of the security position in the northeastern region. And this security is also very important, as I said earlier, even for our neighboring country of Southeast Asia, that is Myanmar, because Myanmar is also suffering from its own security issues in the form of the Rohingya crisis in the Rakhine state. So at the same time, of course, connectivity will help promote cultural ties and people to people movement between India and Southeast Asia. And of course, going by the liberal perspective, the free movement of people would really help promote India's soft power in the Southeast Asian region. So that would be something that would be very, very positive. And of course, geopolitically, China is a very, very big player in the Southeast Asian region. And if we were to look at China, then China has been a very, very predominant player, and China has been aggressive as well as far as southeastern region is concerned, Southeast Asia is concerned, whether it is with context to defining its maritime boundaries in the South China Sea. So the presence of China, or the fact that China is also pursuing connectivity through the BRI. So at this juncture, it is very important that India looks to Southeast Asia, and Southeast Asia also looks to India in a way, if not to counter, at least manage, an increasingly assertive and rising China. So from that perspective, this was my presentation, and we've had a bit of an issue with the slides, but I hope I've been able to do justice to the topic. And so I would conclude by saying that, it is very important for India to constantly engage with Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia is a very important region for Indian foreign policy apparatus. And we need to promote better connectivity, whether it is physical, whether it is digital, whether it is air connectivity. We need to promote greater connectivity between India and Southeast Asia so as to promote our various objectives in the region. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Himani. Very well presented. You started with the historical underpinnings, and then you went on to understand how it is to relate in the connectivity area, and what are the prospects which exist for the country today, especially keeping in mind the growth which ASEAN has, and a lot of lessons which India has to learn, and then vice versa, to talk about the power dynamics, especially in light of the power dynamics and the shift which we are seeing today. It is high time that we must discuss, and we must have these concerns addressed, and more of infrastructural projects which can come up to further the relationship between the India and the ASEAN. And you have taken out the issue of connectivity, and I was expecting the communication and technology cooperation, but connectivity in terms of what you're talking about, the geographical and spatial dynamics That is something which is also to be addressed, especially in light of the strategy of, especially in light of the OBOR, especially in light of the the connectivity projects which we have from the great past. I think this too is an opportunity for the country to further the interest in ASEAN and move forward with it. So thank you so much for bringing this topic to us, and very well presented from the historical to the political and to the economic aspect. And economic power is something which has a huge role in the strategic partnership, and that is what we talk about these days, and IR has been talking about, and there are a lot of works to look into it. I'm sure you must be looking into it. Thank you so much, Himani. Now, can I have
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Farooqi, are you here? Mr. Farooqi? Omar Farooqi? Nimesh, can you check if Mr. Farooqi is here? He's here, but I don't think he can speak. Mr. Omar Farooqi? His mic is unmuted, but I don't think he's. Yes, he's here. I can see he is here. Mr. Omar Farooqi. I think if you're using any headphone, please remove it and then try. Otherwise, if you're not using one, you can use one and then speak. Try, because we don't have Dr. Sanjay here now. Dr. Sanjay has left, Dr. Sanjay Hazara. We have only your presentation left, and then I'll be moving to the Q&A session. Mr. Omar Farooqi. Can you write in the chat box, Mr. Farooqi, if you're speaking, if there is something coming from your side? Are you here? Are you able to hear us? Okay, so what should we do, Mr. Farooqi? Nimesh, what should we do?
I think we have to proceed ahead.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we can incorporate him. Anyway, we can incorporate him. Is there any way?
I think we need to change some audio.
Yeah.
We need to change some audio devices, maybe.
Yeah, Mr. Omar Farooqi, we are still here. We still have time. We know that you have worked hard. You might have prepared a presentation, and we can take it if you are changing the device. What I can do is I can open the Q&A, and once you are done with the, change the device, audio device, or replace the device you're on. Right? That is what I'm saying. Mr. Farooqi, you can also coordinate with Nimesh. Yes, you can come through mobile if you are on computer. Or let us know what is the situation. So I'll be moving forward with few questions. And Mr. Omar, if you have solved the problem from your side, meanwhile you can tell me. I mean, I'll start the Q&A, but still, if you figure it out, you can tell me. I think we'll be able to do something for you. Is that okay, Nimesh?
Yeah, it will be fine. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think we can go ahead because we also have to conclude in time. And if he changes the device or something, you can just give me a heads up, and I'll stop the discussion, and we can give him the opportunity to speak first. Okay, so I have certain questions here. I'll be going from the bottom side first. As I can read, there's a question for Ajay. I'll give you guys time to respond, strictly 2 minutes, not more than that. Ajay, you have a question, and You have a question that Bangladesh tries to balance itself between India and China. Do you think that Bangladesh has been successful in doing so after its involvement with China's BRI? And also, what do you think about the repercussions of China's recent wolf warrior diplomacy with respect to Bangladesh-India relation? Ajay?
Hello. Can you?
Yes.
I'm audible, ma'am?
Yes, you're audible.
Hi. Thank you for having me again. And in the answer of this question, I would like to say that the geographical location of India, the Bangladesh particularly, it's a three-side locked by the India, and the fourth side is opened by the Bay of Bengal. We all know Bangladesh is a very important neighbor for India, but it is also a fact that India is also a very important neighbor for Bangladesh, because the geographical proximity would not allow any extra regional power in between the two countries. I know the extra regional powers come into the South Asian region, and India has responded by its diplomacy with the, for instance, the India's neighborhood first policy. The main objective of the India's neighborhood first policy is the main objective of to create a balance between the immediate neighbors. That shows that the India is not a threat to them, because it has been a very long-standing perception. It's a big country. It's a big. They have the small neighbors of India. They have a perception that India is a giant country and have to involve extra regional powers to balance the India in the South Asian region, which is actually, in my opinion, is not correct, because India.
Ajay, we can't hear you. I think there's some network problem at your end. Ajay? Ajay? I think. Ajay? I think he has some issues. Ajay is here. Ajay, can you type in the chat box if he's having issues? Yeah, that is what I'm guessing, he's having issues. So, yeah, I'll read out the next question, and if Ajay comes in, he can type in the chat box. If we have more time, if he can still speak. There's a next question for Palak to Himani actually, and she's saying that she thoroughly enjoyed the presentation, and she has a question that don't you think India opting out of RCEP somewhere challenges the idea of improving connectivity? So what is your thought on this, Himani?
Thank you, Palak. I hope I am audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you, Palak, for your kind words. And also, I think as far as RCEP goes, this is my personal take on it. So I think one of the greatest issues that India personally had with the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership was that somewhere India did not want its markets to be, flooded with Chinese goods. And also, China is known for dumping its goods into markets. So I think for India, the fundamental position was that somewhere if we are signing the Regional Comprehensive Partnership, it would flood Indian markets with the Chinese goods, and it would be unfair to perhaps the Indian manufacturing sector, and India wanted to protect its manufacturing industry. And so I think that was the official line along which India has decided to opt out of the regional comprehensive economic partnership. While I do agree in the sense that yes, it does challenge connectivity, but at the same time, I do believe that whatever India is trying to achieve, in terms of its economic growth, and its greater economic potential with the Southeast Asian region, India cannot do it at the cost of compromising on our hard power. And economics constitutes a very important aspect of India's hard power. So we can't really compromise on the hard power dynamics and hard power which is decided by India's economic health. I think it's only when we'll be economically sound and we'll have a strong manufacturing base and a stronger and a service industry that would be protected, that we would be able to further our interests. So I think, of course, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership has, stated that it is more than open to having India on board at any time. So, maybe the negotiations are, in fact, I suppose back channel negotiations may be still on. And maybe if some of the concerns that India has with reference to, its agriculture and dairy sector, if they are addressed, then India could join the, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership again. So, I mean, that's my personal view. I hope I've been able to satisfy you.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Thank you so much. Next, we have a question for Arushi, and it is by Arnav. He's saying that it is a well-known fact that Strait of Malacca can be used as a choke point against China. Even there were some non-official reports of the Indian Navy creating a blockade there after the Galwan incident in 2020. If a similar kind of blockade does happen in the future, what do you think would be the repercussions with respect to Singapore-China relations and India-Singapore relations?
Thank you, ma'am. During the Galwan clash, Indian Navy was placed on high alert. I know this fact, but there was no official statement regarding it. So regarding the Galwan clash, I would like to say this. But if there is a blockade, which according to me, if I say it's not possible, because we live in an interdependent world where it is very difficult for us to block a particular strategic choke point, especially I don't think India needs to be that assertive in that area, because we are already part of this informal grouping in the Indo-Pacific, which is the Quad. So I'll take three countries, which is India, Singapore, and China. So I'll tell you how such a blockade affects all three. For India, you don't need to block anything. India does not need to block any strategic choke point, because India is already a member of this informal group Quad, along with US, Japan, and Australia. So we are working on that front. For Singapore, it is nothing new, because Singapore has always been wary of the presence of any hegemonic power in the region. So despite of having major Chinese ethnic population, it has never considered China as its own ally, because it is not just a year or so or after the Galwan issue that Malacca dilemma has come into notice. Singapore has always known it, and it knows that it suffers from it, because it is a small nation state. It needs to stand for it. Plus, Singapore is just not a small nation state. It more than small nation state. It is an oasis in the third world. So it achieved great successes. It's a first world country surrounded by third world countries. So it knows what it has to do with respect to China. And plus, it is playing this beautiful role when you say it is balancing India and China as well as it can, because none of the three countries can blame each other for promoting their own national interests, I feel. And with respect to China, China knows that Malacca is a strategic choke point, and India plans to do it, but India is a responsible part. So we are not that assertive, I feel. But China has tried to come up with other plans such as CPEC. We know there is this China-Pakistan economic economic corridor which connects Gwadar and Xinjiang province. Plus, we also have Myanmar-Yunnan pipeline. So China is coming up with other projects too. So I don't think anything will affect. All the three countries are they are aware of the fact that how they affect each other, because Singapore is also, it believes in US presence in the Indian Ocean. So when it believes, it backs democratization and it backs the presence of Washington in the Indo-Pacific, and India belongs to an informal grouping with the US. So somewhere we are along with Singapore. So that is what my paper was all about. That it is China that brings us all together. So nothing brings us all together than just a common purpose. We have a common purpose, and I think we should go beyond horizons and frontiers and just get on with it. And this is our opportunity to enter Southeast Asia, because China leaves no opportunity to enter South Asia. So I think it is a good opportunity for us. Thank you. I think I'm able to understand. I mean, I was able to understand the question well, and I think I was able to answer.
Yes,
thank
Arushi.
you, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, I would like to thank you also. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and you've been a very amiable moderator. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Arushi. You have been a wonderful presenter, and I'm sure your paper will do wonders once it is out.
Okay? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Now I have Arnav's question for Mr. Badaruddin. I think he has posted it. I'll not read it. If you're ready to comment, if you want to comment on any of the part, Mr. Badaruddin, or I can read it out. It is already there. His question is quite long, so which is why I'm not taking time to read it. But still, it is. If I'm, I mean, he said that Pakistan as adversary are trying to use 1,000 cuts strategy against Pakistan. So if this is true, isn't it a failure on the Pakistani side? Because it was Zulfikar Ali Bhutto who talked about waging a war against India for 1,000 years, and General Ziaul Haq talked about the bleed India with 1,000 cuts strategy. Second, with the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan, what do you think that Taliban has understood the fifth gen warfare and is trying to tackle certain issues through this? And third is, what do you think about Pakistan's development in fifth generation warfare? Can we call ISPR as part of the Pakistan's fifth generation warfare prep? Mr. Badaruddin, are you here? Mr. Badaruddin, I think he's not here. If you want to take up any of the question or all of it, if you want to comment it all together, please let me know. He's here. Mr. Badaruddin. Meanwhile, Ajay, do you want to finish? I think your network was lost and you had to leave, or probably you were not audible. So if you can just finish off your argument. Okay, Umar is here. Yeah, so Umar, do you want to share your thoughts? You were left in the presentation. Agar aap bolna chahte hain, you can speak.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, perfectly audible.
Oh,
yes,
thank you. Finally, I am
ahead,
audible.
Yes, finally you're audible. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll just take 1 second to just read out the title of your paper. Once again, okay. Muhammad Umar Farooqi, Mr. Farooqi is a research assistant, Center for Research and Development, and his paper is titled Great Power Rivalry in the Bay of Bengal, Implications for India. Yes, Mr. Farooqi, please.
Thank you, ma'am. I am Muhammad Umar Farooq from Bangladesh. Actually, I studied in India, South Asian University. So, ma'am, I know you a little bit.
Okay, good to know, good to know.
So I wish I could share my slide, but I can't share now because I have joined from my phone, mobile phone. So let me start. My topic is here, growing geopolitical rivalry in the Bay of Bengal, implications for India. So my presentation outline and could be the first one, growing geopolitical rivalry in the Bay of Bengal. Second, factors behind the growing rivalry in the Bay of Bengal, and third one, the implications for India, and fourth outline would be the way forward for India amid the growing geopolitical rivalry in the Bay of Bengal. So let us start. First of all, we know that already it has been discussed in widely in academia and also in real world in politics that because of rise and return of Indo-Pacific, because of rise and return of Indo-Pacific, the importance of Bay of Bengal has been also increased. Once upon a time, the Bay of Bengal was considered as the backwater of Indian Ocean for a long time, but recently the Bay of Bengal has been the background of geopolitical rivalry in the Indian Ocean. So, due to the growing importance of geopolitical rivalry, importance of Bay of Bengal, the geopolitical rivalry has been also increased in the Bay of Bengal. The second thing is, so my research question was what are the main aspects of the growing geopolitical rivalry in the Bay of Bengal? What are the implications and way to forward for India? So my hypothesis was cooperating with the littoral states for India cooperating with littoral states is more effective approach for India rather than engaging with other extra-regional great powers for maintaining peace and stability in the Bay of Bengal. And if I could show some picture, but it's not possible. So let's what factors behind the growing geopolitical contestation in the Bay of Bengal? First one, the historical significance. We know that the Bay of Bengal, we can imagine, we can perceive still now the Bay of Bengal community. So there is the cultural common culture, common history, and common civilization based on Bay of Bengal in this region. And you know that the Indo-Pacific, it was also what we are calling Indo-Pacific. It was also in 19th century, before 19th century, Indo-Pacific also is the popular as a region. But in 19th century, during First World War, Second World War, and Cold War, the Indo-Pacific term was not popular. There was a term, the Pacific, just not Indo-Pacific. So now in this in 21st century, Indo-Pacific has been again got its traction in world politics. What is the reason? The reason is the rise of China and rise of India as a great power. So because of rising India and China, Indo-Pacific again now is the matter of talk. Now it is the burning question again. So, and in the same way, Bay of Bengal now is the important because India is the only local littoral and China also besides neighboring. So this is now is the ground for world geopolitical rivalry, and this is now the great power rivalry. So the second thing is why Bay of Bengal now got traction or got attraction again in world politics and world geopolitical rivalry. It is the geographical location of Bay of Bengal. See, the geographical location is the Bay of Bengal. It has linked to ocean, Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean. This is the first one. Secondly, it has covered two regions, South Asia and Southeast Asia. So, and it is the near Malacca state. This is the most busiest sea route in the world. So for this region, now Bay of Bengal has got attraction, has got the attention again in world politics. Next, I also mentioned rise of India and China. This is another region for getting attraction in the world politics, and regional integration initiative and infrastructure development. You know that BRI, BDN, and Quad Plus, all those things are now happening. The Raja Mohan, he also mentioned that rivalry through regional integration process, competition over regional integration process. It is another cause for getting attention in Bay of Bengal. So critical geopolitics, another cause. Critical geopolitics refers to the construction roads, construction dam, construction fort. I mean the infrastructure development. It's the part of critical geopolitics. When we are calling the classical geopolitics. It was based on the sea, that kinds of region. But now critical geopolitics include the infrastructure development. So this BRI is happening here. Port Plus is happening here. And others are also the things happening about infrastructure development. This competition regarding regional integration process, regional integration initiative. China is proposing one thing, India is proposing another thing. Someone, Turkey also showing interest for Bay of Bengal or others country in this region. So that's why the Bay of Bengal has got the attention again. Another things, most important things, the India thinking now and China is thinking now, and other great powers, Japan, US, they're thinking now, if we want to secure Indo-Pacific, we must Bay of Bengal. That's the main question. Bay of Bengal has been the background of Indo-Pacific geopolitics, of Indo-Pacific rivalry in Indo-Pacific. So this is the region. So implications for India. What could be the implication for India? First one, thing is happening now already. When China is rising, China is trying to control the region in Bay of Bengal. India is India is trying to bring or fool the others great powers like US, Japan. So India is trying to engage the other great powers, US, Russia, to encounter China. So these things were, for this, what is happening, what is going to be happen, the presence of other great powers in Bay of Bengal will be discounting the interest of India in this region. So if US is present here, Japan is present here, Russia is present here, it will discount, it will affect the interest of India in this region. Because India is the only littoral on the local regional power, because India has the caliber and potentially for maintaining peace and security in the Bay region for its own capability, with its own capability. So India, I think India don't need to bring or don't need to welcome others great powers in this region. If India do this, then it will not be good in future. So this is how India discounting the interest of India in this region with welcoming welcoming others get power. India has the own caliber to tackle China for in its own way, in its own cultural way, in its own civilizational better, in its in maritime connectivity, what is happening with the neighboring country. So India has the own caliber without welcoming other countries. So second thing is, if India engages other countries, other superpowers or great powers, multipolar world system can be declined because China is rising. It could be if China and the US stand in reverse way, that could be the bipolar world. But if India stand himself separately, then it will be maintained multipolar world. And if India join with US, but it could be there then bipolar world. So then neighborhood first policy or act east policy. If India welcome the US or other country, so neighborhood first policy or act east policy could be the less importance or anything, or it could be the weekend. So, and compromising with non-alignment policy. India has the history of non-alignment since the 1955 under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru. So this stand gives India distinctive platform in world politics as a rising power. Stand with non-alignment policy. Thus, India still India is the beneficiary with pursuing non-alignment policy for its long journey. But if India join or welcome another extra-regional great powers to counter China, so that could not happen the better in future for India. So compromising non-alignment policy is not good for India, I think. So mitigate the rivalry. The last thing is to mitigate the rivalry in the Bay of Bengal. India should proceed with its own caliber, own potentiality. So way to forward for India amid the last thing is, what is the way to forward for India amid the growing geopolitical rivalry in the Bay of Bengal? First one, the strengthening the cooperation with littoral countries. Those littoral countries from Bangladesh to Indonesia, those countries are located in this region. So India should strengthen cooperation with them. Second is the resolving conflicting issues. Some things in this region, some conflicting issues happening is still now active, like border conflict, like migration problem, Rohingya refugee problem, and some problem, conflict, and also disaster, climate change. These are common problem also besides conflicting issues. So those things also be addressed by India as a leader in this region. If India want to pave the way in this region to facilitate the regional integration process, without any help from other extra-regional great powers. The next thing is what should do India? Domestic politics is significant determinant. See what is happening still now. Although partition is happening in 1947, but still now India is the center for all from Muslim all over the world. You think what is happening in India, like Nijamuddin, those are the center for Muslim world, or from Muslim all over the world. So India can use these things. How India is still an attraction for Muslim, despite of having partition. You think that what is happening now in Indian politics, domestic politics, in positive things in domestic politics, it could give a better presence or better within the profile in this region, like Bay of Bengal region. Shared and common culture, India should focus to facilitate regional integration process and setting agenda to tackle the common problems and challenges in this region, because India is the
Kumar, sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Omar. You have just 1 minute to conclude. Okay, we are already getting late for the panel. Just 1 minute to conclude.
Okay, thank you.
You'll be able to do it. Yeah, you have time to conclude. You have 1 or 2 minutes to conclude, please.
Oh, okay. So another thing is multilateral approach is better rather than bilateral with littoral countries. So when bilateral approach in diplomacy also effective, but for regional integration, for building a community in this region, India must need a multilateral approach rather than bilateral approach. The next thing is respect to small power for own region and own interest. So there are many small power in this region, Bay of Bengal. So India have to respect them for own region. For even geographical proximity, India has it should be utilized. Need proper guidance and leadership. You know that leadership is the most important for regional integration. So India should facilitate it. Avoiding big brother attitude. All countries have the common sense, common notion that's about the big brother attitude of India. So India should avoid to sustain himself in this region as a big brother. Really, facilitating maritime connectivity, as it is we are talking the ocean-based regionalism. So maritime connectivity is the most important here. Already has its maritime connectivity with Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. So it should be reach to Indonesia, I think the last border of Bay of Bengal. Then confronting traditional and non-traditional threats. So India understand better about the traditional and non-traditional threats in the region other than any extra-regional great powers. So India should focus. And last thing is energizing or facilitating BIMSTEC and SAARC or re-emergence of BIMSTEC is important here. So energizing BIMSTEC and SAARC, it could be the last and most important initiative for India to encounter any rising great power or to facilitate himself as a rising power or to sustain as a rising power in this region. Thank you everyone for tolerating me for some moments.
Thank you, Mr. Farooqi, for the detailed understanding, for bringing us the detailed understanding on the Bay of Bengal and India's move in the direction to understand how there's a requirement to go multilateral, then bilateral. And I agree to the idea of we must harness the historical cultural commonality which we have, and as we all have been speaking about. With this, we come to an end to the panel. And I have two questions to answer here by Arundhati Sharma and Tulsi Pokhriyal. I'll be very brief, but if you have further any follow-up questions, you can always write to me. We all have our profile on Google and you can get our email ID and you can connect with us. So, but still, I'll very quickly, since it is already 10:15 and we should not push it beyond people are here waiting from so long. So first question, which is by Tulsi, is about how have you perceived the future of South Asian intra-regional connectivity? I can give you a lot of answers, but I'll tell you just one thing that if you remember, the globalization 1.0 was about moving from west to east. Globalization 2.0 is about east to west. And globalization 3.0 is about equality in terms of the smaller states, which is still in ideal condition, but there are projections about it by the Goldman Sachs and the World Bank. And I would say that if you talk about especially South Asian intra-regional connectivity, there is a lot of scope for it. And one thing which we lack is the connectivity. Even in intra-regional setting, you will see that there is a scarcity of the connectivity, especially the network, rail and road network, which we can have. And once that is done, the future of the South Asian intra-regional, especially we can also call it the sub-regional setting is, I'm sure, is going to, further in the future. So that is what I have as your answer. And about Arundhati Sharma, she's asking, how do you think cultural integration can be achieved in the light of the trends of cultural nationalism, particularly religion that has defined the history of region? Do you think there's a dichotomy? Yes, I think there's a dichotomy, and which is why I have made it quite forcibly, and I have made it quite vehemently. I have argued it, and I have spoken about it, that we have done a lot of, there has been a lot of reverse trend, but we need to follow, we need to go back to the time which was pre-colonial time, and we need to understand that these were the set of communities which used to live together. And if we go by their statist understanding, which is the imposition of the Westphalian order to the South Asia, especially after the colonization, if you look into it, that has been the forceful imposition. And if we remove that, we have been into the community practice. If we start realizing that these kind of impositions which we have has furthered the identity politics in South Asia. And that is why time and again I'm saying, though it is not possible, because at the present, if you will see, the realpolitik dictates that is the time of the division and not the unification, but certainly I am optimistic about it. And we bring out the ideas which were positive, which has united people and which has been helpful. So that was the crux of the thought which I presented, crux of the paper which I presented. But anything apart from it, I would love to hear from anybody else, whatever is the feedback. Due to paucity of time, not today, but feel free to write. And I must thank all the presenters for presenting wonderful issues, wonderful narratives in IR, and especially pertaining to South Asia and the region, and also the connectivity from South Asia to other regions. And I think those who were listening to it would have thoroughly enjoyed, would have had the churning session. And we are leaving today with a lot of thoughts and a lot of ideas to further inquire about. And to all of you who are working on these projects as part of your PhD, all the best, all my best wishes. Develop it, and once you develop it, if it is part of that, we would love to read the abstract of your work, or if you develop a paper. So it has been a wonderful session and a wonderful experience so far. And I must congratulate once again the team NICE, because they have been working really hard. They have organized the South Asian version of ISA, International Studies Association, conducts annual convention every year, bringing about 6,000 scholars internationally. And what NICE team is doing is something which is the Eastern version, which is our annual convention, and I must congratulate the team. So thank you so much. If there is any further announcement, over to the NICE team. Otherwise, I had a pleasure connecting. Yes, Ajay. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yes, Ajay.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Chair, and thanks to all the participants. Hope to see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Please join us.
Dr. Pramod, I'm so sorry. I think Ajay has something to say. We'll give him just 60 seconds to speak,
sure.
And then we can conclude. Yes. Ajay, please go ahead. I think Ajay has a problem. Dr. Jaiswal, I think you can take over.
Hello.
Yeah, please.
I'm audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes,
please conclude your statement.
Yes,
30 seconds.
I'm sorry for the technical glitch, and I could not conclude my answer. I'll take in 1 minute. I'll conclude my answer. Basically, the question was that Bangladesh was actively the Belt and Road Initiative is connected with the Belt and Road Initiative. See, as I was saying, that India and Bangladesh, the both countries are more have a prominent geographical position for each other. Like the Bangladesh has very in my opinion, Bangladesh managed the balance between India and the Belt and Road Initiative. For instance, the China wanted to invest in the deep sea port in Bangladesh, and it is also a fact that the Bangladesh is the second country after Pakistan who's getting a large amount of investment from the China, as according to Belt and Road Initiative. But when the China wanted to invest in the Sonadia deep sea port and wanted to establish its navy in that for the future purpose, the Bangladesh government denied, which clearly evident that India and Bangladesh relation is very right now it's very good, and the balance between the Belt and Road Initiative and between India and Belt and Road Initiative, Bangladesh are doing a very good role. And on the other side, unlike the Pakistan and Sri Lanka, Bangladesh is smartly working with the Belt and Road Initiative and with the Indian also, and they are trying to refrain from the death trap of Chinese investment, like Sri Lanka and Pakistan. So these kind of incidents clearly show that the Bangladesh clearly create a balance between the relations with India and China.